everybody's coming up into the temple from the south. The pool of Siloam is down below. So this is where they would have done their the mikvah and the ritual cleansing. They would have made their way up into, so you come up to Jerusalem, you'd be down in pool of Siloam, below the city of David, or at the city of David, and then you'd make your way up. And even when you get here, well, you'll see in a moment, you're going to take the southern steps and you're going to come up, and then if you come here, you're going up. And it's that whole idea that you're going to meet the Lord, that kind of a very physical connection with doing that. And this is the thing that Paul was accused of doing. If you remember, we started in Caesarea Maritima, and remember, he was there because he was accused of bringing a Gentile, beyond that point. And where it said don't pass any further. And this is the reason why he began to be, the mob grabbed him, was ready to rip him apart. Going further behind you to the north would have been the Antonia Fortress, the Roman fortress. They had to come down and pull him out. And then he asked to speak to them. There's so much that happens here. And we call this Herod's temple, and that's right. But I have a feeling that when we see Joshua and Zerubbabel, they're gonna have a problem a little bit, right? He's like, what? Herod? Herod did a remodeling expansion project, and he did a pretty good job. But Solomon, of course, they were in the tabernacle in the wilderness. It was also in Shiloh for a while. Eventually, the temple was built here by Solomon, and then it was destroyed in 586 BC by Nebuchadnezzar. They were out of the land for at least 70 years. This is where you have Ezra and coming back, and Nehemiah coming back to restore and build the walls. Zerubbabel, Joshua, reestablishing it. When they laid the foundation of the temple, they cleaned it up and they laid just the foundation of the temple. All the young people began to cheer and they were excited. But what did the old people do? They wept. They were sad because of the condition it was in. They eventually built this temple. But there's something interesting that's said in that prophecy, is that the temple they were building was going to be more glorious than the one that Solomon did. We can give our reasons, but here's my reason. What did their temple have that Solomon's temple did not have?
Jesus.
It had the presence and the work and the ministry of Jesus Christ. And so what we see is a very expanded platform. I'm sure Norm will share more. But a lot of this was just retaining walls, and they filled it in with dirt and gave more space to go on. I briefly mentioned it last night, but Abraham was told to take his son, his only son Isaac, there in Genesis 22. And he was told to take him and offer him. And he came to Mount Moriah. You are standing on Mount Moriah. Okay? And this is where he was told. How many days journey was it from where he was to here?
3 days.
3 days journey. When he got here with Isaac, you read this in Genesis 22. When he got here with Isaac, he put the wood on the back of Isaac, and as you can see, they had to come up here to Mount Moriah. And as Abraham, being obedient to the word of the Lord, was about to sacrifice him, the Lord said, "No, I will provide myself a sacrifice." And he turned and found a ram caught in the thicket. And then here we are, fast forward into the days of Jesus, and Jesus is crucified. A little bit further north, still part of the Mount Moriah, and he was offered up here for our sins, for our sacrifice. Hebrews chapter 11 tells us that Abraham took his son and by faith journeyed here. We know from the Genesis 22, it was a 3-day journey, that he came by faith, believing, knowing what was going to happen, but he had faith and believing that God would raise up his son. So read Hebrews 11, you can go read it, which becomes a figurative picture of course, Jesus dying and 3 days later rising from the dead. So how did this piece of property come to be important to Israel? So we know this saying, where sin abounds, grace abounds. much more. So really there's two things that really exemplify the grace of God. And one of them is when David in 2 Samuel 24, and in pride, and his commander Joab was warning him, don't count the people. He counted the people. And the Lord was displeased with it, and he gave him three choices, right? He says, you can either have 7 years of famine in the land, 3 months of enemies attacking you, or 3 days of plague. And he chose the 3 days of plague because he said, I'd rather fall into the hand of the Lord than into the hand of my enemies. And many people died. Well, as he sought to repent, there was a man who owned this piece of property. And it was the threshing floor of Araunah. And so David wanted to make a sacrifice. And so he was here at this spot. The Jebusite Araunah said, I'll give you the land, I'll give you the oxen, and I'll give you the implements for the sacrifice. And I love what David says. It's a dark, sad moment in his life. But he said, I will not offer anything to the Lord that does not first cost me something. So he made the best real estate deal in the history of the world. And he purchased this from Araunah. And then the plague stopped. Of course, we know his sin with Bathsheba, and their son's name was Solomon. Then, where sin abounds, grace abounds more. He sinned with the census, the grace of God was poured out and gave him this place. He sinned with Bathsheba. They had a son, and the son, in God's grace, allowed him to be the one to build the temple on the place that David had to purchase because of his sin. Sin abounds, grace abounds much more. Solomon built here, Zerubbabel, Herod built a temple. Ezekiel talks about in the millennial kingdom that there'll be another temple built. Before that, in Revelation chapter 11, verses 1 and 2, it talks about what I just called a tribulation temple. And this is a temple that's going to exist. Interesting in that, and you'll have to read it when we get back, Revelation 11, 1 and 2, it talks about how John is going to measure this. And so we believe the Holy of Holies is up behind us, right? But he is told now, I'm trying to just pull in a lot of pieces. Feel free to ask if you can. But I believe one of the most significant things prophetically that has happened in the last 2,000 years is Israel's a nation. We know from Daniel, we know from Jesus, we know from Paul, we know from John in Revelation that the Antichrist will stand in the temple and say, I am God, worship me. Right after he kills the two witnesses, they kind of undefeatable guys. They will come up here and say, now you must worship me. And that's when they're going to flee, right? You any idea where they're going to flee to? Down into the land of Edom, right? So hopefully these things are beginning to pull together a little bit for you. So I'll try. Jesus was crucified. And so some of what I'm going to share with you right now, it's not found in the scriptures. It is found by some historians as they talk about what was going on at the time of the Passover. So there would be a mass of men coming up here with their lambs at Passover to offer the sacrifice. Now, we don't know. Did Jesus celebrate Passover the day before and then Passover happened? Some historians, they say that there were so many people that those from like in the northern parts, they would count their day differently than those that would count the day here in Judea. And so they would start the meal the night before, and it would run all the way into the next day, and a second group would take, which means you would have 2 days in which slaughtering was taking place. Or Jesus did not take the actual Passover meal, which is really hard for me to believe. And so that's a question mark there. Just, you can put a little, go search it out on your own. I'm always reading up on this one. But when they were coming on this temple, they were singing the Hallels. And one of the ones they said was, "Save now, Lord. Save now, Lord." And as they had all of these men up here, with all of these lambs up here, in this direction, being offered up, the blood being spilled around the temple, there were all of these folks, and they would hang the lambs. They would hang the lamb up on the wall. If you had been there, you would see all these lambs just hanging as they were cleaning them and getting them prepared and dressing them out. And while they were up here and they were chanting, "Save now, Lord," what was happening? Jesus was just a little short distance further up on Mount Moriah. The Lamb of God hanging on a tree. And they're saying, "Save now, Lord." The Lord is actually saving at that very moment. They estimated at the time that Jesus would have come down, depending on where it was, it could have been a very short distance. They would take him down. They initially wrapped him in just a linen cloth. You can imagine the blood soaking through that. They're making their way down, off from Golgotha to put him in the tomb. At the same time, the crowds would have been, the men would have been going back with that lamb that had been slain, wrapped in the skin of that lamb, stained with the blood, walking through. And then they would go home and they would roast this lamb. One person said they put skewers of pomegranate wood in the shape of a cross through this lamb, and they would roast it. At that same time, Jesus is being placed into the earth. And so, now, again, I gave you a note at the beginning, right? This is some historical look into things. That's not biblical, proof of it, but the mind just kind of explodes. But Paul did say that Jesus was our Passover lamb. So a lot to think about as we're up here. Once we get up beyond here, under the Dome of the Rock, it's a place where most people believe the Holy of Holies was. There's a piece of the earth, or the bedrock up here that can be seen. And so you can understand that if that's the place, and why the Jews would have a complication today of building their temple. So that is the majority view, for sure. Beyond the Dome of the Rock, there's a secondary view. That's interesting. And it's put out forth by Asher Kaufman. And there's a little dome that will go to, it's called the Dome of the Spirits, I think. And you'll see another piece of that, and he suggested that this is the location. It lines up with the Eastern Gate, and there's some reasons for that, but we're not going inside of there, but we'll go by that other site. The Lord will work out those details. Actually where it is, he knows, but that's where we're going to head out to. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody want me to say all over again?